Come on.
This is Outside the Round with Matt Burrill, a Raise Rowdy podcast.
My man, Grady Smith. We had you on at the old studio, at the old Trey Lewis DM Monday studio. I think you had like just moved to town around that point, right? Like January of 23?
I would have been here like a little less than 6 months.
Yeah, and now you've been in town for a while, like over
2 years
almost 2 years, which is pretty crazy. And happy to have you back, dude. And happy to it's cool. Like we've gotten to become good buddies.
Yeah.
And hang out at places like the Rusty Nail and Live Oak and all of our different spots, and gotten to go to the Cheesecake Factory with old McElwain, which we're due for another one. I know we're both so
Factory.
busy.
I felt so ill after we went to the Cheesecake Factory.
Dinner and dessert is a lot. We gotta do dinner somewhere else and then do dessert.
Yeah, let's go to Cava and then let's go get a piece of cheesecake.
I am so down for that, man. So how's life been going for you?
I think pretty good. Like I think Nashville's just got a real hopeful energy about it right now.
Yeah.
Like I feel when I think of how New York City is portrayed in movies and stuff, I imagine like a girl with her suitcases, like looking at the bright lights and Times Square.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got the last dying gasps of that version of New York City. Because when I go back and visit friends now, it doesn't have that energy about it. And Nashville totally does. And it's just brought like a lot of good into my life to kind of be around a place where there's like some dreamers and some hustle right now.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot of grinding going on. There's a lot of, especially in the world that we're in with the media side of things, and now you're even producing. You've gotten more into the. Has it been everything that you thought it was going to be coming here? Because I know when we did the last episode, you were kind of like, is Nashville going to be what I think it's going to be, or are these people going to want to talk with me because I'm honest with my reviews and with my things and with my videos?
Yeah, I feel like the first like year here, it's just I've never lived in a party town.
Yeah.
And like there's always something to do. And I feel like I did all of it my first year and then had to kind of like step back and be like, okay, I don't need to go to Red Door every night.
No, you won the award. You're good.
Yeah, I know. I was excited to win that. And then at the same time, I was like, this feels like a cry for help. I just won the Lifetime Achievement Award at Red Door in my first full year here. So I honestly stepped way back because I'm like, I might be going too often. And
but it's important to go out and network, and that's something that Nikki and I talk about, and I don't do it as much as I used to, but like when you first get into town, like that's an important part.
See, but I don't believe in networking.
What do you mean?
Like, I believe it happens naturally if you are just like doing what you would already be doing, but I've never sought to go network.
Well, the networking here is more of the way to do it, I think, is more like that laid back. It's hanging out in the patio at Red Door, and you're hanging with your crew, and then someone knows someone in your crew or someone else that you know that you didn't expect to see.
It's the most interruptive bar I've ever been to in my life.
Yes.
You always turn around, and you're like, who are you? And they're like, oh, I'm friends with Jenna. And I'm like, who's Jenna? And you're like, she was at your table a second ago. You know, it's a whole thing, and you meet people. I guess all I was saying is I meet a lot of people that tell me with a straight face, like, oh, I'm going to go network at this event. And I'm like, that's not going to work.
I don't like the formal thing either.
Well, you can tell when someone is there to like shake hands and meet. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like those interactions always go very poorly. I'm like, don't go network. Go to things that you want to go to. If you like a songwriter at the local, go see their show. You'll probably meet someone there. But if you go to an event with the express purpose of like, I'm going to meet people, and I feel like it never works. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting triggered over one word.
No, dude. No. And the word networking and that whole idea of it being like a formal thing. Because if you go to like, let's say a 49 Winchester show, you're going to find other folks that like 49. And that's going to kind of, you guys are going to bond over that kind of thing.
Totally.
Same thing with, like you said, the local's a perfect example. And you go to some of the more traditional style of rounds that are over there, and you'll meet people that you like and stuff. And that's something that we see now. We're doing when we last done this. I was just doing my Tuesdays every other Tuesday. Now we're doing 10 to upwards of 14 events a month.
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know how we do it either, bro.
I can't make like one video a week.
Bro, yeah. Now I'm dropping 2 pods a week. Like it's a lot, and we're in festival season now too, Which, are you a big festy? I forget if we talked about that.
I'm not like as into festivals as everyone else. Like I've gone to a few, but you know, I've always had a bougie experience where I'm like invited and I get to stay at a hotel. But I'm even one day I'm sometimes like, do I even like this? This is stressful. And then when you see all these people are camping, I feel like I don't do.
That's what we did last year.
Enough drugs to
Yes.
to enjoy the full festival experience. I'm like, it's cool.
Yeah, that's how I learned to sleep in a tent. Was get high enough to sleep in a tent.
Yeah,
you know, that's how I got to that. And then it starts raining, and you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? But but like seeing all those people and everything. For us, it's a big thing for being able to sell our merchandise and get our brand out there and get the content. We were just at that Rock the Country Festival, which is basically it's Kid Rock and Aldine, so it's everything you would think it would be.
Yes.
And it's just absolute chaos.
The first one I ever went to was actually Laurel Cove up in Kentucky, which is like a super, dude, it's the coolest venue. It's almost like Red Rocks, but Appalachian version, where they have this kind of like carve out in the side of a hill, and there's like a creek that runs around the stage, and that's where I met Wyatt Flores, like 2022, and I was like, are you the kid that sings Traveling Kid? He's like, you know that song? And I was like, that's the only one I know by you. That's the only. There wasn't much out at that time, but yeah, that's a really special one.
Yeah, because there's in Kentucky, the Appalachia scene's got more festivals coming up this year.
100%.
I think I forget the one. There was one that was like, it's got Old 60 on it. It's got I think Charles is on there. I forget the name of it, but it's somewhere I think in Eastern Kentucky. And then obviously like Bourbon and Beyond this year is fucking ridiculous, and like things like that. Those festivals, because we go all through the Midwest and the Southeast. We've got Iowa and Illinois coming up. We got the Tailgate and Tall Boys scene, which they're letting me MC that, which is gonna be pretty wild. And being on stage is giving me a T-shirt cannon, so I'm gonna be shooting T-shirts off into the crowd. It's gonna be a fucking experience doing that and everything. But
I feel so blind to, like, when scrolling social media, I feel like I'm so bad at actually looking at when anything is happening. I feel like if I see a poster, I don't know why my mind doesn't process it. I don't read the dates. I don't read who's playing.
You just keep scrolling kind of thing.
Yeah. People are always telling me, oh, did you see that so-and-so is coming? I'm like, I didn't know. I didn't even know. So
is it invite that you're getting to shows then, or is it friends being like, hey, so and so's coming to town, let's go?
I feel like it's someone talking to camera and being like, hey, I'm playing here. I always find out about shows.
That's more engaging.
Right before. Yeah.
Okay.
For me at least.
And that makes sense because you're a talking on camera guy now. How's the home studio working out? How's everything going? Because I remember when you first moved in there, we broke bread over calzones and strawberry shortcakes, and we sat there and discussed music and all kinds of stuff, and you showed me the basement and all of that, and it seems like I saw you're doing some videos upstairs now.
I kind of do them wherever now. I'm in such like a freaking diva artiste mode of YouTube at the moment where I'm like, I'm not gonna do reviews anymore. And I no, it's going well though. I think I'm finally at a spot where I'm just truly making the stuff that I want to make, and I will shoot wherever. And it's been good. I feel like I'm finally in a flow.
That's good.
Well, wait, I can't really say that with that much credibility because I just took like a 7-week break from posting, but now I'm back.
You took a 7-week break from posting because you're not just remote doing these. That's not your only like contribution to the scene anymore because you're in it.
No, I've been working on this video game for like the last 2 years almost.
Yeah, Country Star, right?
Yeah, and like that. Frankly, I got paid out like all my bonuses and stuff.
Yeah.
From my first 6 months of performance, and then I don't know, that was more money than I've usually made.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if there's a good time to have a little bit of an existential crisis and not post, it's kind of right now. And also, beginning of the year on YouTube is the worst money.
Really?
Yeah, January, February, because basically you get paid out based on how much people are advertising. Every company increases advertising leading up to Christmas.
Oh.
So like September, October, November, December, it's like an ascending amount that you're making per each.
It's good to know.
Yeah, and then January it falls off a cliff. Like last year, I got way more views in January than I got in December and made way less money.
Interesting.
So it's like a 60% reduction in
wow.
what's your CRM. So if there's a good time to be a little bit lazy, it's like January through March.
Yeah, and then you can focus on other things.
Yeah.
Like all these other facets that you're in now, because you've got producer credits, you've written some songs, you've gotten to do other things now to where you're not just talking about the music, you're helping make the music in addition to being a connoisseur and a voice and offering commentary on it. Like
I'm dipping my toe in.
I would say you're ankle deep. I would say you're ankle deep. You're a little bit further than toe now, Grady. And I love that though. As someone who started out as a music fan and started in the broadcast world of doing it, like it's really cool to see you doing that, honestly.
Totally. I've like kept it pretty quiet just because it's like an experimental thing I'm trying out, and I don't want to like I don't know. I don't want to be so arrogant as to be like, look, I'm producing, but I'm just trying new things, I suppose.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
And when I say producing, I don't mean turning the knobs. I'm not any kind of engineer
no,
who knows how to use Pro Tools or Logic.
Yeah, there's a difference between someone who's in the room being like, hey, why don't you sing it this way? Or why doesn't the music sound like this way? And bringing the ideas versus the guys that are engineering it and doing this and doing that. But talk about Brandon a little bit.
Yeah. There's this guy named Brendan Walter down in Texas, and I just saw him on TikTok like a year and a half ago and thought he was amazing. And so I just sent him a DM to encourage him, and then tried to link him up with like a big producer because I thought he was good and I wanted to be nice. And then that guy was like, what if you produced it, Grady? And I was like, what the hell? So I somehow kind of got involved on that side of things.
Yeah, and it's like Brendan fits in that world of, you've kind of always been tapped with the underground and with Appalachia being where you're from and that being stuff that you're like proud of, and it borders on the Americana, but it's still country, but it's like kind of like alt country because it's singer-songwriter, but now it's like in the mainstream. Like you've been a champion of that scene for as long as you've been doing it. It seems like, honestly, like talking about Charles and 49 and folks in that world, and obviously Zach, and now it's like that's a huge part of mainstream country music.
I know, we're in a strange spot right now where like I don't think we've ever been in this place that we're in now, where like the perception of that music is like super top shelf. Like this is like the independent good stuff. And yet we're in a spot at the same time where it's like the tailgate music, like kids that are 17 now that would have been playing Florida Georgia Line are now playing like Tyler Childers. And so we're in this like strange thing where it's like super normie, but it's also still got the mystique of being like independent and different. And I don't really know what to do with it, frankly.
Yeah, because it's a spot that, like you said, we haven't seen. I mean, it's like the country stars are the rock stars now. Like Wallen and Combs and Zach are the rock stars of American music.
For sure. But it's funny, like, to see, I think, especially with Zach, his influence among like all the kids on TikTok that are just wailing their music. And, you know, it's, I think I live so in it. I live so in the scene that to me, it still feels, I'm good on the number of people that I feel like are almost imitating Zach Bryan. I have like a disparaging term that I call the Zachalytes, which is for kiddos that I think are writing, you know, just like a way worse version of it. But you know, it's their first songs. It's fine. But it's funny because like, I think the rest of culture is just now kind of tuning into it. I feel like the wave is actually still cresting, even though I'm like, bro, we've been on it. So I'm like, man, maybe I'm a true contrarian because now I'm like, I'm getting over everybody like mimicking this.
So
sound.
If you're over that, what sound are you liking right now?
Oh, I mean, I
know you still like it.
I like anything that is well written. Honestly, like I feel like very omnivorous. I don't care if it's super poppy. I don't care if it's like really hard rock. I don't care if it's whatever. I just want it to be good. And I feel like for years, there was always those years where like, you know, Zach Brown would put out, you know, his some really poppy song, and then he'd go on the news and be like, oh, people don't like, country traditionalists don't like if I try new things. And I'm like, well, no, it's just you went from Highway 20 Ride to freaking Gucci Band Stacks on Stacks. And like you chose your worst lyrics for the moment you went pop. So I'm actually not mad that you went pop. I'm just mad that it's like way dumber. And I feel like, you know, Ban Perry said that when they did like Live Forever, and they were like, people don't want to see us go pop, and I'm like, well, no, it's just not as good.
Yeah, there's ways to go pop and it be good, and I think
100%.
I think Morgan
Taylor 101.
Yes,
Morgan, like
yeah, and like obviously like your latest video that you put out. Let's talk about country's song of the summer contenders, and it's like those songs of the summer are pop leaning that appeal to more than just us who traditionally bump country music.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I feel like whether you're talking about a bar song with Shabuzi, which is literally just like a riff on Jaquan's Tipsy, or I Had Some Help. Yeah, they're I think structurally they are pop songs. They're like, but I think they sound very much in the middle of like what country sounds like.
And they're
right now.
good. They're good songs.
Yeah, they're bops.
And that's like you said. It matters if you're gonna make the jump. If it's still good. If you're making good country music, and then you go pop, and it's not at the same quality of with the writing and with the song in general, then then of course you're gonna flounder when you go pop. But if you make the good stuff, it's cool to see. Like even like this Twister soundtrack that's coming out. Like and Luke dropping that song today. Like fucking jam, and it's for that to be because that's gonna be a huge fucking movie.
I'm intrigued by this soundtrack because it's like
it's all country.
It's all country.
It's a lot of songs.
But it's like literally every scene of country at the same time.
Yeah,
it's like I feel like the Hunger Games one. You could be like, okay, they really went for this one type of artist. They got like Sierra Hull and Molly Tuttle and Charles Wesley Godwin, and it feels like Appalachia. And then this one, I'm like, wow, we got freaking Breland right alongside Jake Cohn, right alongside like
how is it all gonna fit sonically into this motion picture?
I'm like, they're definitely covering their bases. They got every freaking every niche of country.
Yeah, and I think everybody's dipping into it. And then one of the One Direction guys is dipping into country now too, right?
Oh yeah, Zayn.
And he's like, "Don't think I'm just doing this for the trends." Like bullshit, man. You are doing this.
He goes like, "It's important to know that like I'm not hopping on the bandwagon," and I'm like. I mean, who knows if like that was a rough headline.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I didn't read the full Nylon interview that he said that in, but it sounds a lot like when you you shouldn't have to say that if you're not doing it.
Yeah, you should say. I'm interested to hear. I don't know if has any of his stuff come out yet. So I haven't even listened to it.
I don't know. Like it's so funny because I actually covered. I pitched One Direction for their first like American cover story.
Oh, really?
When I worked at Entertainment Weekly.
Oh, no shit.
I was obsessed with the British version of the X Factor. Yeah. And I was like, guys, there's a thing with this band. I swear to you, it's like Beatlemania over there. And we ended up going and sending a photographer, and this like way more senior writer than me was assigned the story, and we ended up passing on it. But then they did Rolling Stone like 2 months later, and I felt a little validated. Like I saw it. I saw that was happening.
I saw that, and that was one of the first moments where you saw that was happening, kind of thing, being in the music world, or was there one? Or was the one before that? Because you see a lot of stuff now, especially being here in town. You get to
actually
see
the
stuff happen.
only good stock investment I've ever made in my entire life was about. I knew just from being a nerd and looking at like sales data, I knew that the Hunger Games and Twilight were huge, but weren't like out in culture yet. And I knew Lionsgate had bought the rights to both of them. And I'm a pretty bad stock trader. It's better for me to just go to the set it and forget it stocks with companies like GE, where they're not going to like spike. They're not going to spike down. And I was like, Dad, I think I might put $1,000 into Lionsgate Film, and he was like, "Go for it, Grady." And that stock went from like $18 to $38, and I sold at the top, and I doubled my money, and I was so proud of myself.
Hell yeah!
My one good investment was knowing that Twilight was going to be a thing.
Knowing that these movies were going to do something before they were the cultural phenomenons that they were. Yeah, that they became.
Dude, books often lead the way that way. It's so weird. They're like quiet, and they don't like. I feel like if they pull off whoever makes, every girl is reading Fourth Wing.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like dragon, sexy, like young adult fiction.
Like Game of Thrones kind of thing, or?
I would say halfway between Game of Thrones and like Twilight.
Okay, so yeah, that just, you put those two together, yes, the teen boppers are going to be all over that shit.
Oh, 100%. But that's going to be, if whoever buys the rights to that, let's go invest this afternoon.
Let's go. How do you stay above getting caught in the Nashville bubble? Because that's something that I struggle with, is being on the ground and being boots on the ground in town, it's like we see things happen here, but then someone could have all the buzz in the world in town and it could never get out of town.
Yeah, that's a really hard one to resist. Like, I think about it a lot. I think, how do I avoid it? I try to trust like my DMs more than I trust what someone's saying at Red Door in a weird way. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in the hype of, oh, this person played, at Raised Rowdy and they were good and everyone was talking about it the next day, or this person played Whiskey Jam and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, sometimes, honestly, I look at freaking Spotify numbers.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm being gaslit right now. And not even with bad intentions. I think, like, it's weird. People have, like I said, that positive, hopeful energy here. But a lot of times you're like, you're not right. That's not actually a thing happening yet. That's not to say those people aren't talented. But I don't know. Sometimes the cold, hard numbers are a good way around that. But honestly, like, nothing is more real than just like what people are actually reaching out about and saying online. Like, to me, the most powerful endorsement is someone that takes the time to send a DM that's like, I really want you to check this out. Like, that means to me, this person has enough fans, and some of those fans are passionate enough that they are going out of their way to reach out. And that's just a lot more powerful of an endorsement than someone with a vested interest in being like, there's a lot of energy around this artist. Like, you're like, yeah. I'm glad that's what they gotta do. Like, you're not a good team member of one of these artists if you're not trying to push them and don't believe in them, but it's not the same.
Yeah, that's how I feel like coming from the two camps that I worked heavily in before doing the Raised Rowdy stuff. Like Muscadine, for example, they're not in-town guys, but they sell out clubs all over the country and have massive streaming numbers. And to me, that's an example of that kind of thing. Like, there's so many acts that are in town, and you're like, they can't be doing too much. I don't hear about them at all. But then you look at their shows, and they're selling tickets, and they have this incredible merch line, and they have these numbers. They have this YouTube following, and they have this interaction on TikTok without necessarily being like TikTok guys. And Gary and Charlie, I think, do a really good job of that.
And they're interesting because I would say they're like the rare artist that is actually okay with being in control, owning their stuff, and maybe having B-list level fame.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, like, there's that siren call of like, I want to be on red carpets, I want to be on radio. And there's kind of these rites of passage that we've all learned of, this is what it is to be a big artist. And I think they're very attractive. And I don't begrudge people for wanting them, but I do think they want them. And I think Muscadine are these rare people where they can actually trust, like, no, we have real fans. We really sell tickets. And it's okay if our engagement pictures aren't in People magazine. But like, not everyone's comfortable with that. And so I think they're very unique in that way.
Yeah, and having the control to where they basically co-manage themselves, they co-produce themselves, and the way that their sound has evolved too. I was lucky to be with them before COVID, but post-COVID, Muscadine, that music, I fucking jam it. Like their new sound, and I can't wait for this new record to come out too.
No, it's good.
Like the rootsy kind of story thing, because it's like part of that thing where it's like the post-COVID sound is just different. And I think it's like that for other artists too. And then like the wave of like the Zacolites, like you talked about, or the Cobros out of Texas. Oh yeah, my favorite band to see live right now is Treaty Oak. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite band to see live.
Well, they actually have. Okay, I feel I have been, the Texas guys. I love all the fans in Texas. Doesn't take much to win their loyalty, in my experience. No. Like, whoever is like the cool band among like the frat boys in Texas,
and it's rowdy, and they have some cool merch, and like that's to succeed in Texas.
And sometimes you see them live, and they're like, I mean, it's fine. Like,
I don't get it, but yeah.
Treaty Oak, when I saw them live the first time, I was blown away. I was like, whoa, this is actual real showmanship. Like, this is a fun show to watch. I don't feel like I'm watching like a messy bender up on stage. Yeah, the crowd is freaking rowdy.
Yeah.
But they have it.
Yeah.
I so agree with you.
Yeah, and it's like everybody in the band, it's a true band because everybody in the band kind of has a little bit to them, and everybody in the band has their moment. It's not just the front man.
Totally.
kind of thing, which I really like.
They're cool because, speaking of that, when I mentioned them in a video earlier this year about kind of rising stars, and that video was hard to edit because there was like no freaking pictures of them.
Yeah.
Like I was like, do you guys have you ever taken a photo together? Like all I need is a picture of the freaking lead singer. And to their credit, like you can tell that that's not really, you can tell that they don't have that kind of motivation of just like, we have like a hot lead singer and we're going to put like we're going to super invest in a million photo shoots of it. But I could find a lot of like crappy TikToks of their fans filming them. But I was like, man, this is a band that their priorities are, we're going to play great shows.
Yeah. My first time seeing them it was the night after they played Brooklyn Bowl. This last time that they did Brooklyn Bowl, they opened for Wyatt Flores at Bowls, Bands, and Barrels in Lexington, Kentucky. So it's like they call it Not Your Grandpappy's Rodeo, the Bowls, Bands, and Barrels. It's wild. It's like WWE meets rodeo. It's like a lot of fun. Like the way the announcer is just kind of bombastic and wild. Love the guys that put that on. But it's seeing Treaty Oak in there at the Kentucky Horse Park was with all those rednecks in Lexington, Kentucky, and people just throwing shit and them just in it and on it, and then Wyatt going up after them. Two very different styles, but it still fit together because the Treaty Oak fans were also Wyatt fans, which is interesting to see that they'll like rocking out, but then they'll like jump into some of the more like serious kind of topics of Wyatt Flores.
Dude, it was funny when I saw Treaty Oak live.
Where was your first time?
Basement East.
Oh, cool. That's a cool room to see them in.
But I was talking to, and I won't say his name, but I was talking to like one of the most powerful people I've ever spoken to in my life, and this like big executive dude. And I don't know. I was just like, well, this is interesting. I'm getting like FaceTime with this powerful dude. And then some guys from the crowd were like, Grady fucking Smith, get in here. And they pulled me into the crowd. And I didn't really know their music that well at that time. And I was like suddenly in a mosh pit. But I was in my head the whole concert being like, was that incredibly rude that I just walked away from him? Like, now I've made a bad impression, all these things. And then I was talking to my friend the next day. He's like, dude, it probably made you look cool.
Yeah.
Like,
it probably made like, this guy's in the scene.
I know. And then I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah, you can have suit talk and then get pulled right into it because the music fans, you're someone that they relate to because you talk about the shit, dude.
But I really felt like there's that Mark Zuckerberg meme of him like, I think he's at a MMA fight or something, but he's like trying to fit in and his hands are in his pockets and that's so how I felt in a Treaty Oak show. I was like, oh gosh, I'm a little older than these kids and I'm much less drunk.
Yes. Yeah. That's how many shows do you go to now? Do you still try to get to, did you go to a lot of shows when you were back home? Would you?
Charlottesville is like a pretty easy, like it's
Jefferson
a
Theater, right?
big music scene.
Yeah,
like,
Jefferson Theater is the big one out
like
there.
Jefferson, right? But then you also have the Pavilion, like, and you also have you have every size there. You have the Southern, which maybe is like 150 people. You have the Jefferson, which is like 750. You have the Pavilion, which is like 3,000 to 5,000. Then you've got the University has an arena and a stadium. So really every size comes through Charlottesville. So yeah, I went to a bunch of shows there, and honestly, like from my time working in media, I understand that there are a lot of comp tickets, and I understand that Charlottesville is not some media hub. So I was pretty enterprising when there was a show I wanted to go to of being like, well, somewhere in my email, I've probably been contacted by this label or something, and I'm just going to ask for a ticket.
Yeah, that's cool. Because, I used to go to
it was easier in Charlottesville, weirdly, to go to shows for free than it is in Nashville.
Oh, dude. Yeah, Nashville shows are tough. And that's something I don't miss about being a tour manager, bro. The guest lists for a Nashville show were always a pain in my ass.
But I kind of feel like, this is just the feeling I have. Do you sometimes feel like the crowds in Nashville are, because there are so many people that didn't have the buy-in of going, that they're like, and maybe they're just so much more familiar with the music business that the shows are a little less rowdy?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's something that I've told people before is like that. I've said that like your Nashville show was like the Gavin Adcock show.
The funniest show I've ever seen in my life.
The Gavin Adcock show at the Exit Inn, because you were there that night as well.
Totally. Well, and the funny part was, I mean, Gavin's funny, but the juxtaposition of like, it was so easy to tell who was in the industry.
Yes.
And who was.
Well,
it
was industry up here in the balcony, and
yes.
then like back underneath the balcony, and then it was all those kids. There were some kids that drove like 8-9 hours to get to that show.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like a Nashville show. It felt like a Gavin Adcock show. It didn't feel like Gavin Adcock in Statesboro, Georgia, where there were 9 fights before he even went on the stage. But it was like, that to me felt more, that was the most un-Nashville show that I've felt.
Yeah, well, I was, you were among the peasants.
Oh,
I was
dude,
in the balcony.
One of our dude, I love being.
I
like,
did too. I left the balcony. I was
Yeah.
like, this is so weird.
Yeah,
I feel like.
And then Gavin comes out into the middle of the crowd and that was the first time he had done that. And he was like, we're gonna do something crazy.
No, I was like, I want to be a peasant. I want to join them. I want to join them in the regular crowd. So.
Yeah, I love the Exit Inn too. That's a great venue, and I'm glad that it's still here because it had disappeared for like a brief second.
Because they got hit by that tornado, right?
No, that was
years ago.
That was the Basement East that got hit by the tornado.
Oh, my bad.
Exit Inn was they were trying to sell it and put something else there during COVID, and then somebody else bought it and reopened it.
Oh, heck yeah!
That's what happened.
I didn't know the backstory there.
They were like, we're gonna save this historic venue that has seen Jack White, that has seen like Cage the Elephant, like all these rock. It was more of a rock club than country venue, and now it's crossed over into a lot of country shows that are in there. Particularly like the out of town like Texas guys. Like I've seen Mike Ryan there a few times.
Yeah, I've seen. I guess I haven't seen rock shows there that much.
Disturbed is playing there, which is just ridiculous.
I saw Cole Chaney there. I saw Vincent Neil Emerson there. So I guess it's the rock guys and the way out of the scene.
Yeah,
like,
and then they do shows middle of the week with like up and coming artists like Caleb Lathrop, Hayden Kaufman just did a show there. Like guys like that who are still working their way and paying their dues. The Zach Top show there was really good too.
Oh, I was there too. Yeah,
that Zach show was awesome, and I love that the Old Hickory Boys opened up because they're one of my favorite things that people don't talk about. They still play their weekly gig at Scoreboards. They still do Tuesday nights at Scoreboards where they do their cover set. Yeah, where they do their cover trio set, closing shift at Scoreboards. They still have that.
That's where I had my first ever pickleback was at Scoreboards.
Really?
Yeah.
I had my first pickleback on a party bus going to a show in New York City.
Okay.
From New Jersey, and there was someone with a jar of pickle juice and someone with a bottle of whiskey, and it was a very unkosher thing. It was bad, but that was back in my drinking days, and I had plenty of pickleback shots on that party bus. You can only imagine what a party bus going from middle of New Jersey, the people on that bus, to New York City for.
Oh well, dude, I just experienced my first real music party bus like last week.
Oh yeah,
because I went with Ward and Whiskey
Yeah,
Jam.
how was that up at the How was that? That was that the PBR up there? They did that.
Yeah, it was called like PBR Live or something like that. But yeah, there was like a traveling Whiskey Jam show, and then. Because the weather was so bad, and I feel like I live in monsoon season suddenly. I had to move to Tennessee to experience tropical rains, but like we couldn't leave like right away after the show, so we were like sequestered in this bus, like 8 or 9 artists and a few other people that had tagged along, and man, it got rowdy.
Oh yeah,
like we didn't get back to Nashville till almost 3 a.m.
Oh hell yeah!
And it was quite an evening.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it looked like it went well up there.
It was cool.
That's cool. Yeah. It's cool to see the scene, different folks, and obviously Ward's been a champion of it for a long time. Like taking the scene from Nashville and bringing it to other markets, and especially when they're drivable to go and do. It's just a day trip like to Louisville. That's a great concept, and I hope he keeps doing that because that's really cool.
Yeah, well. There's no way to sustainably party the amount we partied and do it as well.
There is. You just have to do it, man. There is.
I can't rally that hard.
I was going to say, I've done it. I've done it without drinking, and I've just been around it and just.
How do you handle that? Is it annoying to you?
Because
you're in some rowdy settings.
Oh yeah, always. I was in rowdy settings when I was out on tour. I was with Trey right when Dickdown came out. We were the only band really touring around the country. Like there were some very rowdy times, but it's just like I enjoy it. I especially at that point in my life, because that
you don't get judgy ever, where you're like,
no, I didn't.
Idiots around me are.
I do a little bit more now for sure, and I'm getting closer. I'll be 30 in January, so it's like when Dickdown came out, I was 25, and it was like I had been missing being on the road. And I was on the road with Musket, on the road with Gary and Charlie, and on the road with Trey were very different things.
I can imagine.
Both from Alabama, both fans of each other, both like buddies, but very different camps. And it was like I enjoyed kind of that cast because I'd been cooped up for so long in COVID. And it's like December 2020, we're in Texas. We're selling like 2,000 tickets in some random town in Texas. And it's just chaos, Like it was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I don't know if I could do it now like I did back then. You know, I don't think I could because it was chaos, and obviously things in my life have changed now too. You know, like now I'm looking through the world as looking at the scene as a business owner, as a player in the scene, and it's taken me a little while to get to that, but it's cool, like being a co-owner of something that's making a big footprint in town.
100%.
Like it's wild to see, because I remember going to like my first Whiskey Jam show and being like, oh shit, this is so cool. Like I'd love to do this one day. And now we have a full band showcase, ironically at the same spot where Ward was doing that. Now we're at Losers, which I kind of like it. I kind of like it at Losers right now.
Is the but yeah, how long is Winners going to take to renovate?
I think they're planning it. They'll be open before football season.
Okay.
And it's going to be a really cool concept, and we could talk about that off the mic. It's going to be a very different thing, and we're also going to be announcing our parking lot shows soon. We're going to have 4 of them that'll be Raised Rowdy branded, which I'm excited about. It's going to be different, you know. It's going to be cool, but I'm looking forward to.
I don't know how you do that so much. People have asked me a few times, like, "Hey, do you want to curate a thing?" And the idea of having to logistically like text even like 10 different people, I find so overwhelming that I'm just like, I don't think I can do it.
Well, the cheat code that I've had with rounds, and I taught Nicky T this when he started doing the rounds when he moved to town in 2021, was say a round at Live Oak. There's four slots, like there's 4 hours of music. So you'll ask one buddy, you'll ask 4 people, and they'll just bring their friends. Mm-hmm. You know, and I remember one time I had Ward do that. I've had Ward play when it was in the round. I had Ward play my writer's round twice.
Oh,
and
nice.
When I asked him, I was like, hey, if you want to bring any of your homies to play with you. And he's like, wait, you're going to that's so cool. You ask people and then they can bring their buddies and just play with their buddies, you know, like it makes it, and then that also takes the workload off you. But then people naturally have more fun playing on stage with other people that they're co-writing with. Yeah. Because then they know each other's songs, and then that allows for the 3-4 part harmonies. Like you end up with, like if I have like S.J. McDonald, she'll typically bring like May Estes and like Trent Wayne and like Schmitty and like those guys, and they all write together, and then you end up with they all know each other's songs, and then like one of them's like ripping lead on it. Like it just makes it a cool experience, you know?
Totally. Yeah, I was so spoiled. The very first round I ever went to was 2013. I was here on assignment.
Jeez.
And
it's a long time ago.
And it was like Carrie Underwood's main writers. So I want to say it was like Brett James and maybe Hillary Lindsay was in the mix or something. But they all knew each other and they had written big hits together and they could do that. And then, you know, then you see much less auspicious rounds sometimes where it's like 4 people that don't know each other and 3 of them are looking at their shoes as one person is. Yeah. And I was like, oh, damn, I kind of got a nice one for my first one. And I didn't even realize it.
My first round, one of my first rounds in town was Revival, which is they're now officially back. They're doing once a month over at Losers, which we're very excited to have them over there. When we saw that, it was like a big surprise to us because we knew they were coming back, but then we saw they were at Losers. We're like, cool, somebody else at Losers with us. And they were at Tin Roof obviously for a long, long time. But my first round that I went to over there, it was that Tuesday. It was in fall of 2018. She Got the Best of Me had just gone number 1, and Big Rob Snyder, who books Revival, was a co-writer on that. It was him, Channing Wilson, and Luke. And I remember going to that and then turning around and seeing Luke Combs sitting up on the back booth at Tin Roof, and being like, oh shit, is he going to get up and play? And then ended up being Luke Combs, Channing Wilson, and Rob Snyder playing on the pew at Tin Roof. And I was like, I moved to the right fucking town. Nice. You know, I moved to the right place. I was like, I couldn't get this in New York. I'd have to pay a lot of money to get to this in New York, you know? So it's been cool to be down here and all of that. What do you think of like the different, like obviously like you just did the video about the songs that are out now, like the song of the summer and all of that, like all these different styles that are having success, like everything's kind of being able to work. And like you see guys like Old 60 who are just kind of like popping up. People are like, are these like industry plants? It's like, no, these are just kids from Western Kentucky, you know, and they're doing more like a rock kind of thing. But then you have like the pop crossover stuff going on, but then you still have Zach and the Zachalites doing their thing. And then you've got like the traditional sound of like the Zach Tops. Like there's so much room for everything right now. Like,
yeah, I think it, like, there's too much room.
It's like,
I feel, man, country's so clearly the hot genre right now that it's, in some ways, I feel almost hard not to roll your eyes a little bit about how speculative everyone is being about country music. Like I feel like all of the coastal attention is suddenly like we have to figure out how to get into this scene. Which in one way is incredibly flattering and cool and like great. In another way, you're like, this is a bubble that's gonna burst. Like,
at some point.
When are we not gonna be the cool kid anymore? And what kind of will be left remaining? Because I think so there's, I don't know, maybe I'm being so negative. That's my negative thought on that. But the
you've always got a negative thought on something, Grady. That's something I've learned from you.
Oh, 100%. Myself especially. I know you're like my positive. Whenever I call you, you're like, dude, things are going great. And I'm like, no, they're not. And I'm
like, bro, you're killing it.
I'll be like, I guess.
Just be happy.
I refuse. So I think, man, my thoughts on all the different sounds. It's really hard to say. It's a huge umbrella right now. Like you obviously have the huge, giant, poppier stuff that we discussed. I think out of Hudson Westbrook with that song "Take It Slow."
Yeah,
that's like old vintagey Parker McCollum. Everyone from, there's all these kids that are popping off on TikTok. Just kind of, it's good that there's a lane for everybody. I think we're in this weird spot in the music industry right now where like I kind of wonder if we are completely past the time that global superstars are going to get launched, and instead we're going to have way more people that have really healthy, strong careers, but they are not Taylor Swift level. They are not NSYNC level, Adele level. Like I kind of think that media is so stratified at this point, and playlists are so stratified, and there's so many different lanes and ways to have success that like I wonder if this leads to like 3 or 4 huge country superstars or like 25 big stars
that play amphitheaters and arenas.
Totally. And probably stadiums one day. But that's just something I've been thinking about recently. My thoughts on the style, I don't know, man. We got everything, like you said, from the rock stuff to I kind of am glad Texas has dropped their old allegiance of being like, we're the real country.
Yes.
I feel like they finally are just like, no, this is like freaking Warped Tour.
Yeah.
And the bands aren't so precious about being like, it was so confusing to me when I was becoming a Co-Wetzel fan, and all his fans were like, no, this is what actual country sounds like. And I'm like, guys, I like it, but you're crazy if you think that this music sounds like Zach Top or Braxton Keith.
Yeah.
Or like it's that's a wild argument to make. So I'm kind of glad on that front. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
I don't know either. It's okay.
I was like, my brain's having trouble synthesizing all of the different sounds.
Yeah,
into
I
one
think
thing.
also too. I mean, I think part of the reason that we're able to have that right now is because there's just more consumers of country music than there's ever been.
Totally. Yeah, and kind of where I was saying, like, it's so speculative right now. To me, in the DNA of country music is a bit of an outsider complex. Like, from you go back 100 years, and that debate was already starting of like, hey, are all these city folks trying to just make money off us rednecks? And I mean, that was immediately as soon as like in the time of Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family, that kind of skepticism and feeling. I personally love that. I feel like it gives the genre this kind of like redheaded stepchild of like, are these people only interested in us because they can make money on us, but they're really looking down on us?
Or do they actually get it?
I love that. I think it's kind of maybe I'm into the drama, but I think it's part
you
of
do love you some drama.
I think it's part of the fun of the industry. And there's a part of me that is like, cause this from, just being a country fan, like there is sometimes, and it's changed in the last 2 years a lot, but in culture, there's kind of this thing of like, I listen to everything but country, or like, I don't like country. And the fun of that as a country fan was always, it's like, yeah, you can look down on us because low key, we look down on you.
Yeah.
So like go be an elitist and we'll write songs about how like, we'll write songs. The country people will write songs about, these people in their ivory towers in the big cities. And I kind of always enjoyed that culturally. So there is a piece of me that's like, I've been saying this lately, like make country uncool again.
Yes, I've seen the shirts.
And so there is a piece of that. But at the same time, by the same token, I am extremely happy that there are so many lanes for so many people to be succeeding. Yeah. So it's I'm double-minded about it. I love how big it is, and I also when Zayn Malik is announcing like, "Oh, I'm making a country album," it is kind of funny and kind of dumb.
Yeah, it's like a bit. Everybody's going through their country phase right now.
Totally.
It's the bit thing. Even Young Gravy.
But I guess I wouldn't
country.
I think my dad had that way back in the day when I was like a toddler. He got wrapped up in Garth Brooks and Randy Travis and Alan Jackson, and ultimately I'm glad he did because those were my earliest music memories. And then he went right back to being a funk fan. He was shortly on the bandwagon when line dancing was getting cool and Brooks and Dunn, and then he got right back off. And maybe we're in one of those phases now, and that's fine ultimately. Like, really? Why am I mad about this?
Speaking
I don't know.
of Randy Travis, what do you think of all the AI stuff? Because you've talked to me. You've been doing videos about AI for a long time, like since you and I met.
Yeah.
Since I think right around like when you moved here or before you moved here, was that? Because I think you were putting
right around it because I did one in January of last year.
Yeah, so it was right around when we did our last episode together.
Yeah, I think, man, the longer I've sat with it, the less I've liked it. I'm extremely happy from like a disability assistance type of way that Randy has a way to give voice where he didn't have voice. At the same time, like the longer I've sat with it, the more I feel it is a scary can of worms. And, you know, there's multiple kind of fearful arguments that can be made, whether that is, all right, so Randy's a perfect test case for this entire debate because he is still alive and able to consent and unable to sing like the way that he used to be able to. And so it's this kind of perfect platform for debating this issue because, obviously he consented to it. It's cool. It's going to be different if we're getting like a new Patsy Cline album, if we're getting a new Keith Whitley album or something. And that might feel icky to me. Yeah. Where I think it's really, I almost think it's going to become more prevalent for artists even that are still alive and with us. Like if we can, play it out down the road, it does not seem unlikely to me that if there's an artist with an incredibly brutal touring schedule that does not have time to get into the studio, that perhaps one day it would be more efficient to just make the songs and speed up that process quickly. And seems like it could, if the technology keeps getting better, save a lot of time and money. Yeah, it could be the efficiency, because at the end of the day, the efficiency's huge, and people wear out their voices on the road. And you used to have the album cycles and stuff, and now we're in a world where it's like country is like what SoundCloud rap used to be, where it's like, how many songs can we get out there? Totally. Which is nuts. Like, we get thrown so much music now. It used to be, oh, there's a new Aldean record coming this year, or like there's a new Brantley Gilbert record coming this year. Now it's like you're expecting these guys to put out 5-6 songs or even multiple albums a year. Totally. Like Zach did that. Didn't Zach do multiple albums in a year? Well, he dropped an additional EP like a month after his big album last time. And the live record that came out just before, like you're able to drop so much music. It's like, at what point do the country music fans get exhausted with it, or do you think it depends on the fan base, and Zach fans are just so rabid that they'll take all that gets thrown at them? Yeah, it kind of depends on the fan base, I think, but I also wonder if it's such a grind, and I know so many artists that are going through this to be dropping song by song by song in like a never-ending state. I'm even surprised that someone at the level of fame of someone like Megan Maroney right now, that they've kind of, I mean, Lucky only came out a year ago. Yeah, they're only on their second single, but then she's now promoting her 4th song that's going to drop this year ahead of this album, and I'm like, man, I kind of wonder if we're going to ever get out of this mindset of like song by song by song by song, and each one gets a big promotional moment and a pre-save campaign. Every song gets a life. Yeah. And like, that's kind of cool and kind of modern and interesting. And I also wonder if we're going to swing back to a place where there's so much quantity of music that it's actually more attractive to the consumer when people just drop like an album. Because I wonder if that weirdly will be the thing to cut through the riffraff, because the mindset right now is, drop one great song. If we get a bunch of momentum on it, then we can take action on the next step in the career. But I almost am like, are we nearing a point where it's going to be the bigger, cooler statement to just drop a whole album? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Because I find myself, just as someone that tries to listen to everything, very clearly to me in the last 8 years or however long I've been talking about country on the internet, like there is a lot more quantity than there used to be.
Oh yeah.
Like it's overwhelming every single
Even
Friday.
this year to last year, there's
Yeah.
more. And
Yeah.
we're only 5 months in right now.
And I find myself, even artists I like sometimes it rolls around to Friday and I'm like, "Ugh, I just don't want to listen to like any more stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much damn stuff.
Yeah, and today we had 2 releases on a Thursday.
I know. Wait, what was the
2
other
big
one?
releases. It
We
was
had
the
Luke Combs,
the
and then we
Luke
had-
Combs song, and then Nate Smith putting out the Avril Lavigne feature,
Yes.
which I love that.
I was like, are my eyes deceiving me this morning on TikTok?
Well, it makes sense too, because if you know Nate's team and the connections within Canada and with the connections to Nickelback, you can understand the connection to Avril. And they had
Okay.
teased that they had Avril had come out to quite a few Nate shows
Got you.
earlier the end of 23, beginning of 24. Avril was with Nate a bunch, and people were like, "Are they dating? What's going on?" And now it's like they're putting out this song so then they can sing it tonight at the ACMs.
One time, I've only flown through Canada. I've never spent any time.
I've never
in
been to Canada either. We potentially we have a call coming up soon about doing a Raised Rowdy Songwriter Festival in Eastern Canada. I'm like, how? I'm like, Nikki doesn't even have a passport. Like, how are we gonna do this? Like, how are we gonna do it? Like, because the Canadian country scene right now is really cool to watch. I don't know if you're as in touch with it as
Not
we
really.
are.
Like, I mean,
Like Jade Eagleson is awesome.
Yes.
Owen Riegling, Josh Ross, Meg Patrick's been awesome for a long time. James Barker Band starting to do some different stuff. Like,
it's interesting because I have not a bunch, but my second biggest viewership on my channel is from Canada. It's
Yeah,
US
dude.
first, then it's Canada. But it's interesting because there can be now the people you're mentioning are people that have made crossed the border. They're here. They have a presence here.
Everybody is now,
But
dude.
there's a whole group of people because they have Canadian content laws. So 50% of what plays on Canadian country radio
Canadian country
has
artists.
to be
Yeah.
Canadian country
Yep.
artists. And so it's funny because there are some times where people will message me or say oh, you got to check out this artist. And it is genuinely someone I've never heard of. And they are a star in the Canadian country
Yep.
scene, but there's no awareness of them here.
It's
And
what it's like
so
what,
weird that way.
It's like what Texas used to be.
Yeah.
It's similar. I say that Canada is kind of like the new Texas because there is still that segregation between Nashville and Canada, but there's so many Canadians coming down. I mean, we've helped sign papers for people to get their O1 visas to get to Canada because playing a Raised Rowdy event is like a business trip kind of thing. They're
interesting.
So we've helped with the documentation for a couple of different artists that are starting to rise, and they're selling out big clubs in Canada, and now coming down here and signing U.S. related publishing deals, booking deals, things like that. It's very interesting seeing how all that's going. You know?
Totally.
It's such a different, I want to go so bad. I want to go to Eastern Canada and experience the shows up there.
There's a song that they have, because I did a video many years ago about Canadian country, and I had asked for some stereotypical Canadian country songs that you might hear in a bar, and one of them was called one was called Canadian Girls. That's how I learned what a toque was.
Yes.
I was like, oh, so it's like a beanie. And I think I said toque in the video, and then everyone trolled me for it. And then
Canadian trolls.
And then they're very polite.
Yes,
And then
very polite.
the other one was called Stronger Beer by Tim Hicks, which is a ridiculous song about kind of American Canadian rivalries. And the whole thing is you got a bigger army down there, but up here we got stronger beer because they can have a higher ABV.
Yeah.
And dude, if you watch, I think if you watch videos of that song live, Canadians enjoy jamming to it, but Americans love it way more because it's kind of making fun of America.
Yeah.
So there's videos of him playing that in the Bluebird, and the people are just obsessed with being roasted.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
Yeah, another silly Canadian song I love is a song called Lonely Drum. Aaron Goodvin put it out years ago, and he's played it at. We've done several Canadian takeovers at Live Oak, and one of them lined up when a big group was in town from Prince Edward Island or something, Eastern Canada. So the room was full of Canadians. He played the song, and people were getting up on the chairs at Live Oak. One guy fell off a chair, and I had to sit him down and be yo, you're gonna sit right here, bud. But it's there's hits in Canada that don't even cross over, but they're massive songs up there.
Yeah.
From years ago. And it's interesting seeing all the rock stuff too. You know, like the Canadian rock of like Nickelback and bands like that, and then like Dallas Smith had a nice has had a nice solo career. People say he's like the Jason Aldean of Canada, but he was in Default years ago. You know, singing "I Wasted My Time," the old butt rock song.
You know that scene much more.
Oh,
than
dude,
I
love the butt rock stuff.
Our crossover is Creed.
Yeah, dude. What do we think of Single Stapp now? Scott Stapp.
I'm sad for it.
I'm hoping it all goes well on tour.
I know, because it's not lost on me that like they finally reunite, they finally start getting in ready for tour, and I'm like, you know, for whatever reason, Scott Stapp is one of those celebrities that I've always felt
you've told me that
like
he was
deep
like
kinship to.
He was like your first one where you're like, one of your first ones where you were like, I'm invested in this guy.
I was obsessed with Creed. I was like amazing at drawing their logo from memory in its exact font all over all my binders.
What is it? We got the Creed.
Yeah, I'm so good at that exact R that goes in like at knowing exactly where it ends in the next letter, and like that was my favorite in middle school. Yeah, and no, I've always kept tabs on him, and I actually find his way of having a complete breakdown really embarrassingly and publicly, and having to just sort of own that and hug the cactus over and over again really kind of inspirational. And so it makes me really sad that like this woman that like kind of helped him get his shit together, I don't know what's gone wrong, but it makes me sad.
Yeah, and then I saw something too that popped up. Mark Tremonti, I guess he does this thing where it's Tremonti sings Sinatra. And Mark Tremonti plays these shows at these like theaters, and it's him singing the catalog of Frank Sinatra.
That is so random.
Which I just love how random everything in the Creed world is.
Yeah.
Like I love that, and I love that like Limp Bizkit's back and Fred's like dressing up in different attire.
He was
for
on
every
my
show.
plane the other day.
Fred Durst was on your plane, coming from where?
I don't know. Like I was coming from LA.
And he was flying to Nashville?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, okay, because I've heard rumors that Fred is looking at living in Williamson County.
Oh, interesting.
Because there's a lot of rock
there
guys.
Could be some validity. You know, me and Fred didn't chop it up, but I did see him, and I was like, I know who that is, but I also don't know who that is. And then my buddy,
what was he wearing? He wasn't like in character
remember.
Fred Durst.
No,
I feel like those guys, their bits are so strong that they have to step out of the bit.
He was not wearing like the backwards red ball cap or anything.
Yeah, I feel like
that.
They have to get out of the bit when it's.
He had a little bit of a beard, I think. Yeah, yeah.
Because one of the shows recently, he dressed up and he called it Yacht Rock Fred, and he dressed up in like yacht rock attire. Like and there's another one where he's wearing like a cowboy hat, and he's like, "I'm a cowboy now," or like it's like a spectacle now, and it's cool to see all those bands kind of coming back.
Yeah,
I enjoy it.
I mean, well, I just you know much more about it than I do. Yeah. I admit I am ignorant of the Limp Bizkit comeback moves that have been happening.
Limp Bizkit,
not been on my
down.
FYP.
Yeah. 3 Doors Down. Creed.
Hinder has that like remix of Lips of an Angel.
Yeah, Austin Winkler.
Shaylin.
Yeah, Austin Winkler. He actually records over with another Grady that we know, Grady Saxman. And Austin records a lot of his solo stuff over there, which is pretty cool.
I've yet to meet him. I met Grady Block.
Yeah,
I want to have I want to enter Grady feud.
Enter Grady feud.
I just think it would be fun if like me and Grady Block and Grady Saxman all just like had some ongoing feud, even if it was over nothing.
That could be fun.
Grady Block once did spill an espresso martini on my boot.
Oh no!
I know. So yeah, but it wasn't enough to build a whole feud out of. Unfortunately, no. He's great. Yeah. I've just not. I've literally people always think they're like, "Oh, are you Grady Saxman?" And I'm like, "No. I'm a different Grady S."
I have produced some songs, but I'm not Grady Saxman. See, now you have that in common.
Oh gosh,
who's the better producer? We love Grady Saxman. We love Saxman Studios. Speaking of feuds and stuff, I know you're boys with BK. What do you think about all that stuff going on? The FGL stuff.
It's interesting that it's interesting that it's kind of all coming back around, because in some ways I'm like, isn't this what we all already knew?
Yeah.
Like there's actually not any new information that I've kind of heard about it. I was like, yeah, this was like pretty clearly what happened. I think, man, it's hard to answer. I think that, okay, my conspiratorial thought on it.
Yes, I have one too.
I wonder how the back-to-back Bussin' with the Boys interviews came about. And was there a seed planted? Like, let's say Brian's in album release mode, and the label is like, hey, we've set this up as like a marketing moment. You can do this podcast. Was there like a little whisper given from someone being like, hey, y'all should do Tyler Hubbard right before him? And
Did you listen? Have you listened to either of them or no?
Just the clips.
Just the clips. Okay, so I listened to the episodes, and it was they had Tyler on, and then apparently how it was started. So apparently, what Tyler had said was false, or false in the eyes of BK. It could be false in general. I don't know. And then as the day that the episode aired, BK's wife reached out to Taylor Lewan's wife, and then they exchanged numbers, and then Brian wanted to go on the next day, so they put it out as an emergency podcast.
Okay, interesting. Because I was like, it's so crazy that they're back to back, like a day apart.
Nick and I had talked about how cool would it be to have them on back to back, and they don't know it, and just get both sides of the story. And then we're like, damn it, Barstool did it first, like The Simpsons.
My feeling on like the kiss my boots of it all was just that, you know, I kind of feel like I almost feel like that song didn't go far enough. Like it's a diss track without a clear diss.
Yeah. Because it's so generic where it could be, it's not about just one person. It could be about multiple people.
It's kind of like you've been talking smack, you've been doing this, but I'm like, but what was done? What was said?
What was the smack?
I was like, you know, I feel like if you're gonna throw a punch, like it has to be a death blow in a feud, because it reminded me in a weird way of when Morgan Evans made like Over For You, and it wasn't really like a Kelsey Ballerini diss, but it kind of is like implying some shade, and it was like just enough ammo for her to be like, oh really? And curb stomp. It like be like, okay, I'm gonna make a very explicit album saying like this and this and this, and you know, I'm like, oh, you gotta like go hard. You need to write like, I don't know, like frauding Georgia or something if you're having an election debate, but actually it's about Tyler or something. Like it had to be like harsh. Yeah. And so it's weird, you know, like I don't know. I don't want to be.
I'm hoping it tees it up for there to be a reunion one day. I think we're still too close from it happening to like how Brooks and Dunn got back together and how other duos have gotten back together. Being
in a duo has got to be so hard because it's like a freaking marriage to someone you're not married to.
Yeah, that's like even business partner stuff. Like Nikki T and I are like best buds, but it's like I don't think we could ever like live together, you know, because like we're around each other so much.
Even in a band where there's 5 people, at least you can sequester off into like different pairings or groups of 3 and bitch about the other person when you need to vent, and like there's just no room to do that in a duo. It's like the two of you, and I feel like it's like a perfect breeding ground for resentments.
Yes, it definitely could be. And I mean, because I loved all the Florida Georgia Line stuff back in the day. As it was happening, I drank a lot of Fireball. Went to a lot of 2012,
do you
2013.
Mean you drank a lot of Old Camp?
No, Fire. I was there before the Old Camp deal. I was drinking a lot of Fireball, and because to me, they are what brought Fireball into country music.
I feel like we're in a lull of for sure. I mean, it was like
that Fireball whiskey whisper. Like it was just that was what you drank. We
haven't had a new celebrity whiskey in a little bit.
No, we haven't. We have celebrity bars every fucking where now.
Yes.
Do you think the Morgan thing was a plant?
No.
I think he just did it because I think that's just what.
Yeah, I think that's just did it.
What a Morgan Wallen does.
I don't think it would be. It would have been done better if it were like.
There would have been a video.
There would
have been a video.
Some video. It wouldn't have been actual felony charges and stuff. Like no.
Yeah, it's to me, it's like back in the day, like Ozzy Osbourne biting the head off the bat or just doing stupid shit, like the rock star mentality. And it's always kind of been in country music. I mean, it's a good thing cell phones weren't around back in the day with like McGraw and Chesney and those guys.
Oh no, it's not. I want those pictures so badly.
Well, I'm saying for them,
but yes, for them. But I like literally, if there is like the main thing I want unearthed, if there's any like shady. Like past stuff that's happened is whatever went down the night of like Tim McGraw and Kenny Chesney getting arrested. Like those mugshots have never surfaced.
Yeah,
like
stealing the horses
because he was like flirting with the sheriff's daughter and stuff. Like it's such a crazy story, and I'm like, there's no like tactile evidence of it.
Yeah, because it's like those guys were partying. Like this is nothing new for there to be wild dudes in country music, like people partying at the level that Wallen does. That's nothing new. There's been guys that have been doing that.
Totally.
Just not with the cell phones everywhere.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a plan.
No, because that's my thing is I could see him doing that. Like I used to check his IDs at the bars all the time when I worked at Whiskey Row. He'd come in pretty frequently.
Really?
Before COVID, yeah. Oh yeah. There were guys that would just come in and have nights on Broadway. You know, some that were wilder than others. Like Dustin Lynch used to come in, and he'd be very chill. Then there'd be other guys coming in, and you'd be like, all right, we're gonna get this guy to the second floor, and we're gonna hope all goes well.
I know.
You know?
I'm surprised. Like maybe it's the journalist in me, or like former journalist or whatever I am. But like, I'm surprised how kind of open people are about like, oh, I'm going out, I'm partying, and get rowdy like publicly. I'm like, shouldn't you be more secretive than that? Can't you afford to go build like a cool, like backyard pavilion grotto area, whatever it is you need to get your rocks off? Like,
you could have your own. You could have your own bar and have the people there that you want to have there. That's what Kid Rock's done. You know, he has that, and like you have guys that are at super stardom, like that stay kind of behind the scenes and stay more chill, like the Lukes of the world, you know, like Luke Combs does a good job of that. You don't see him, but he's also a dad, you know,
Yes.
like having kids can definitely change that.
It does feel like that is generally the sort of pivot point in life.
Yes. Oh yeah, it absolutely is. And that's even like with me, like I've got a serious girlfriend who's got a little daughter, and it's like I'm spending a lot of time doing that now, and it's like a different perspective than when I was just running around on the road and doing this and doing that, you know?
Yeah, you're graduated from tour management. Tour management feels like possibly the hardest.
It depends on
job.
it depends on the crew, and it depends on the relationship that you have with the artist, and it depends on the relationship you have with management. Like there's all of that. And I was lucky; I had good relationships. There were definitely some rowdy times. I had everybody's location on my phone. You know, like you have to do what you have to do in certain camps, but it all kind of depends. I feel like it gets to a certain point though where it just becomes like muscle memory. Like just the days just kind of all go together. Like if you're at a certain level, it just kind of goes. Like you're advancing an arena tour. There's obviously a lot that goes into that, but that's a little bit different than having to drive the van the night after a show in Columbia, Missouri, drive to Stillwater, Oklahoma that night in the van, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's the grind.
Yeah.
Those overnight drives are the grind.
I've done a few like little runs with people in vans, and it's not the life.
Where do you sit? Where were you sitting in the van? Were you like in the back? Were you co-pilot up in the front? You weren't driving. I'd imagine you weren't driving.
No. I just try and get in last and sit where, I don't know. You feel like such dead weight when people just are like, come out for like a couple shows. And, you know, I've done that with Delone Bello once. I did it with Wyatt Flores like last winter. And I don't know. You just sit where there's an open seat and try and not be.
Do you make Are you like making conversation on a road trip?
Here's
or you
what's
put your
crazy about
headphones in?
van trips, because I like every time I've done this, I experience this where everyone's freaking tired. So like they played a show and we're at the venue till midnight, loading out, get to the hotel at 1 a.m, got van call at 7 a.m. And so you get in the car and you're like, I'm here for my 2 days. I'm going to be like a fun second banana and like entertain people. But like everyone's tired. People need to nap. And so it's an interesting dynamic sometimes when you're like, so am I supposed to talk right now? Or do y'all all like, you've all been around each other for 2 months and you just want everyone to shut up in the van. So,
yes, yeah.
But I am a talker.
I know.
I do, like, even on planes, I don't mind. Some people are like, oh, the person next to me talked. I'm like, I love when they talk to me.
You love hearing the stories.
I'll talk for like an hour and then I'll be like, hey, I got to listen to some stuff, and then, you know, put in the headphones, but I don't mind a little chat.
Are you a window seat guy? You a middle seat guy? Window.
Yeah. I like looking at the land underneath it. I like when you go over like gridded areas on the landscape, or looking down at the mountains or looking at the clouds. So
yeah, see, I'm an aisle guy.
Really?
I'm an aisle guy. And I never have to go. I've never gone to the bathroom on a plane.
Really?
I've never gone to the bathroom on a plane. And I've flown a lot, but I just like being in the aisle because I like just getting up when it's time to get off the plane.
Okay.
That's the New Yorker to me. It's just like, go.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Yeah. I felt like a New Yorker when I was in LA, and people there are so bad at ordering food. It was astounding to me.
What do you mean they're bad at ordering food?
How are you bad at ordering long food? Lines. Let's say we go to an ice cream shop. Oh, I went to some place I got a $9 ice cream cone called Salt and Straw. Which, how is that the name of an ice cream place? But it was delicious.
Yeah.
But you get to the front of the line and it is as if no one had studied the menu in their entire 10-minute duration in line. They get to the front and they just kind of look up and are like, how strawberry-ish is the strawberry sorbet? And you know, do you have an almond alternative for your almond ice cream? And it's like, oh my gosh. I was like, are you for real here? Like, how is your order not ready? But you know, I appreciate the laid back vibes of California, but I was like, man, I got some East Coast in me because I am finding myself frustrated.
Yeah, see, I feel like that sometimes down here in the South. I feel like the Southern pace, it took me a little while to get used to. I'm better about it now than I was, but like a 4-way stop in the South is a pain in my ass because they don't know when it's somebody's turn to go.
My horn is broken on my car right now.
Oh no.
And it's rough for me because I feel the same way where I'm like,
You're a beeper?
Yeah, I'm not like really a honker where I lay on it, but I definitely give
I give it a good honk.
Beep. And then if they don't go right then I give it a honk. But
I go honk.
I start with a double beep. That's my move.
You're respectful about it with double beep.
A little bit.
I just honk. I go right in there.
Yeah, look, every time I'm around, I will do that when I'm around like Soho House area.
Yeah. Because
somehow the traffic there is so amazingly bad, and there's always food trucks trying to park, and no one's moving. And yeah.
Do you go there a lot?
No.
I don't like the Soho House personally. I have friends that go, so shout out to my friends that go, but like it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I prefer meeting up at like a bar than there.
Yes. I mean, sometimes depending on who you're meeting up with.
Because then otherwise there's just like people coming over.
Such like a power dynamic, and someone's, you know, fancy is staying at the hotel and they're like, I'd like to meet at Soho House. I can, you know, swallow my pride and be like, sure. But otherwise I'm like, I don't know. Can we go somewhere else that's like not there?
Not the $25, $30 chicken tenders, you know?
Yeah. I'm just more cat-like. I like to be a little more secretive, and like everyone knows everything you're doing at Soho House.
Yes,
like,
yeah. There's like the whispers.
And you go and shake everyone's hand. There's a great side to it, but in general, not my thing.
Not my thing either. Where are some spots you do like going?
Oh my gosh.
Because now that you've been in town for a while, where are like your spots?
The best meal here is randomly Nadine's.
Oh, yes.
Nadine's and Hermitage is so good. It looks like a little dive, and then you go in and you're like, why is everything here delicious?
Yeah.
I love that spot. I love Red Door. I love, what else? Where am I like floating around? I like Edley's barbecue a lot.
Yeah, which one?
Donaldson.
Yeah, the one that's closest to us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that's closest to us. That makes sense.
Those are kind of my food and bev spots. I don't know. I still feel like there's so much of the city I still need to learn. Urban Cowboy is a really fun place to bring.
You're the second person.
Tourists.
I just had Zach John King on, and he was talking about Urban Cowboy.
It just like the back area feels like a fairy garden of like floating lights and fires.
I gotta go and check it out.
It's pricey. It's very pricey, but I feel like when you have friends that are visiting, it's like, you know, if they want to do something else, I always pitch it as like, we can go to East Nashville. It's kind of like the Brooklyn of Nashville.
Yeah, that's how I describe it.
Yeah, and take them to, you know, one like thrift store and then Urban Cowboy, and they're like, oh, it's so cool out in East.
Do you go to Lakeside at all?
Sometimes.
I go when I'm going to shows at Basement East. That's when I go there. Whatever, because it's right next door, duh. Yeah. But it's like I'll hop in the time machine and go to Lakeside.
When I saw Evan Honer at Basement East recently, he doesn't live in town, or doesn't yet, but he was just like, dude, I think we're gonna go to this place called Lakeside, and I'm like, what a crazy move after Basement East. I was a dick about it, but it was that's definitely the move there. But I have a lot of friends that just hang at Lakeside in general. I love it. It's just the weird geographic thing of, even though by stone's throw, I'm like, Lakeside is one of the biggest cool bars that I'm closest to. It takes so damn long to get there from where I live, because you got to go all the way into the city and then pop all the way back out.
Nashville needs more bridges.
I agree.
We need a bridge to Hendersonville from Hermitage. Yes. That would save me so much time.
Unbelievable.
Because my girlfriend lives in Cross Plains, which is up near the Kentucky border. So it shouldn't take as long as it does, but I gotta go all the way around and through Madison and through this and through that. When if there's just a fucking bridge that just goes over the river,
I have learned on Google Maps to, because you know when you look up a location and it shows you the straight line distance of how far you are from something, because sometimes it's like, I'm like, oh sick, it's only 2.4 miles away, I don't need to go far. or I don't need to leave right now. But then when you actually press go, it gives you the road distance.
Yeah.
And that 2.4 mile drive is now a 12.4 mile drive.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh crap, I'm going to be like 20 minutes late to this meeting. So
Yeah.
I've learned my lessons.
I always hit go.
Yeah.
To make sure.
Now I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you been to Chiefs yet?
No.
I'm going there tomorrow for the first time. And Erin is a big, she's a big Eric Church fan. We're going to see Bill Burr tomorrow at Bridgestone, which should be cool.
Nice.
I'm excited for that. She's a huge comedy fan, so I'm excited for that. But she's like a diehard Eric Church fan, so I haven't been to Chiefs yet. But I've got my history down on Broadway and stuff. But I'm excited to see what I've heard good things about the bar from a lot of people.
What makes it good? Does it?
I've heard that the second level is like a piano bar kind of thing, and it's like
nice.
an intimate vibe, and it's like sit and listen kind of thing, and that they allow the artists to do more, like the cover artists to do more originals. They're the most original heavy bar on Broadway,
That's sweet.
which I think is kind of cool. I'm interested to see it on a Friday, especially before a big event happening at Bridgestone.
That's
like
good.
that.
I'm glad that there's like a different ingredient.
Yeah,
Because sometimes those bars just feel like interchangeable to me.
Yeah.
Where you're like, all right, this is like freaking.
Are you gonna go to Wallens on Memorial Day?
No. No. If I'm on Broadway, I'm probably gonna try to go to Roberts.
That's what I like too. I like Roberts.
Or it's just somewhere with like a rooftop. But I haven't been to Garth's new one yet. I haven't been to. There's a bunch. I want to do a video at someday of, and it's just so logistically challenging. But I went to every celebrity bar in Nashville. That's what I want the video to be called.
Yeah.
And go to literally all of them, get a food and a drink, and then kind of like review them on the basis of, is it good? Is it a good value? And how much does it actually represent the artist that's the face of it?
That's what I've heard about Chiefs, is that it is like the whole floor. It's like got like a cover over it, like a plexiglass thing or something, but it's all like vinyls and show posters. Like the walls are just vinyls and show posters
That's
of Eric
cool.
Church and people that have influenced him.
That's cool.
I like that. Like when I worked at Whiskey Row, I don't feel like there's a lot at Whiskey Row that embodies Dirks.
No, same
There's
with Old
not.
Red. Like that's what makes, I think, even Miranda Lambert's one, Casa Rosa, like stand out. Is you're just like, the second you walk in, you're like, well, they're going for something different here.
Yeah.
Like this bar is like all pink and silver and glittery, and like it's like not for everybody, but it's cool.
It's Miranda's
like it
bar.
stands out.
Yeah, you could tell it's Miranda's bar. And then
100%.
like Aldean's and Luke's have a little bit of that too. Not as much Aldean's, but Luke's
I've only
does.
literally, I couldn't tell you one thing about Aldean's because all I've ever done is just go straight to the roof. So like
Really? You haven't been in like that area where they do like showcases and stuff. They're, like Big 98 will do a lot of stuff.
I've literally
No?
only ever been to the top floor.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I haven't been to Aldean's. Last time I went there was to watch Dylan Carmichael do something, and Josh Ross did something too. Like during the day. I haven't done an Aldean's night in a long time.
I mean, I don't think I've ever really done a true
Broadway
LT.
night?
No, I've definitely done that, but I don't. Yeah, I avoid it if I can. I'd rather go to Midtown.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
Like,
And Midtown's about to be changing too, with everything happening on Demumbrian.
yeah, I've heard this, but
Yeah, it's-
I've seen some ominously installed parking, like payment, whatever you call these things. They're not on yet, but so I still have a few streets I can park for
Yeah,
free
yeah, yeah.
on.
That's what I do
but
too. Yeah.
I'm like, why have they been installed? What's
Yeah,
happening
because it's
here?
because there's going to be a complex. There's going to be a big apartment building where that strip of bars is.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's before the end of the year. There's been news articles about this. That's why. I'm
Oh,
able
so
to
those
talk
are
about
going
it.
away.
Yeah, that whole strip over time will be gone.
Whoa.
Aside from Tailgate, because Tailgate owns their portion of the building.
I actually didn't
Yeah,
know that.
that's what you learn doing 15 events in town a month.
Yeah,
you have
jeez.
your ears to the ground. So it's interesting. And again, there's not like a definite of when that could happen, but that lot was purchased, the run of bars from what used to be that 3000 club, that old hookah bar, up to where Tailgate is. And then the parking lot, that public lot behind it, was all purchased. And it's going to be a big apartment building with like retail underneath it.
Well,
It's gonna turn into the Gulch. That's what I'm saying. Like it's
Yeah.
Midtown's. But Midtown is like now you're gonna have Odie's opening up next to Losers. You'll have what's
dude,
going.
I did not know I did not know that that was like an Old Dominion bar. I had heard about it just verbally from somebody. They were talking about ODs, and I was like, "There's going to be a bar called ODs." Like that feels like a really problematic name for a bar.
Like a sick joke.
And they were like, "No, it's ODIES. It's Old Dominions." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm glad they're spelling it like that."
Yes, yeah. Just spelling it like the dog from Garfield, Odie. But yeah, Midtown, like, because there's still, and I like Midtown in the winter the best, because it's when the tourists aren't here as much. Now it's like, we do our events at Losers, and you do get a lot of tourists. Totally. Like last night I saw a bunch of people wearing Knicks gear, and I was like, yes, my people are here. They're gonna appreciate when I give my buddy Bryson Cooper shit for being an Indiana Pacers fan in the playoffs now.
Knicks.
Oh yeah, dude, the city's on fire right now for a lot. There's a lot going on in New York City, and there's obviously the protests and stuff. Not the best, not the best look. It's crazy. But then the whatchamacallit, the sports stuff is awesome right now.
Dude, I think the only player from the Knicks I could even name was like when I lived up in New York, it wasn't Yao Ming on the Knicks.
We had Jeremy Lin.
Oh, okay.
Yao Ming was about 7'6". Jeremy Lin was about our size.
Okay. Lin's Sanity, you're
Yes.
right.
Oh yeah.
There was a big poster right in my apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even keep up with sports.
Yeah. No, but for the first time since like 94, it's been about 30 years, that the Knicks and the Rangers are both this good at this time, and the Yankees are like dominating right now too. But it's like the Yankees being good is one thing, because you know how the city is. Like, what's happening in Manhattan is different than what's happening in the Bronx or Queens or Staten Island or Brooklyn. So for like the Garden to be buzzing right now, it's wild, dude.
For the Garden to be buzzing.
The Garden to be buzzing, dude. It's crazy. Like, it's people. There are people spending. I think tickets are going like $1,000 a ticket almost for Knicks games right now. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
And they're doing well. So it's cool to see that. It makes me wish that I was up there for that. That's the only reason I want to be back in New York, is when the sports teams are good.
I went to one Preds game and I had a blast.
Dude, they're so much fun. We are.
Like, I'd never been to a hockey game before.
We are a hockey town. Nashville is a hockey town, which you would not expect because we're in a warm climate. We're in the South. We are very much a hockey city. People get up more for the Preds than I think they do the Titans, honestly.
I feel that. I feel just in terms of just people talking about it and passion, being like, oh, we should go. Like, I actually don't know many people that have tried to venture into many Titans games, and a lot of people are like, "Do you want to go to a Preds game?"
Dude, Preds games are fun.
I agree,
and everybody's in unison with the chants and everything. Like when the chants when the Preds score a goal and everything. Like, it's very interactive and a lot of fun.
I was with my old editor. He's a Canadian guy.
Oh,
but
hockey with a Canadian's awesome.
Well, we were wearing. I don't even remember who was playing, but we were wearing like they were his family. Because they were all coming into town, and I went to a Preds game with them. They were wearing the opposing team's colors, so it was kind of fun because we were getting like booed at and jeered the entire time, which they took well. They thought it was like part of the fun of it.
And it's not that bad at a Preds game, honestly.
No.
You go wearing a visiting team.
It was good natured. It was good natured.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I had fun.
That's awesome, dude. So what have you got now gearing up the rest of this year? What does the rest of 2024 look like now that we're at about the halfway point, which is fucking nuts? It's moving too fast.
I know, it's really crazy.
Moving way too fast.
Man, that's a great question. I'm currently midway through like a very complicated video that I'm making about the Crack song by Afton Prater.
Oh, this is a crack song.
Yeah, that's been like somehow in my gut, I'm like, this is the smartest story to tell. I know I could do a video on Ernest, or I could do a video on Morgan, but no, I'm like, the Crack song is the most interesting narrative I've heard this year.
Give it its light.
Yeah, so I've been like obsessing over that.
How long have you been following that story?
Like 8 months.
Because it was going on. It's been going on for, I think, even over to like 8. It's been going on for a long time. So it started.
I'm like a forensic expert in this.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah.
It started in like the first comment I could find was in July of last year. It really took off in October, and then it really, really took off in December. Of people trolling these videos of being like, sing about crack. So when she announced that she was doing it, I like unmasked myself in the comments and was like, this is historic. And she DM'd me and was like, wait, do you know about this? And I'm like, oh, unfortunately, I know all about this. And I'm obsessed with this. And I've wanted to do a video on this for a long time. And she was like, well, we're shooting a music video. And I was like, can I come and interview you there? And like, we tell this story for real? And she was like, sure. So She did it with me. It's fun. Like usually I'm like such an outsider looking in. I'm just observing things happening on the internet, and this is fun because it switches to I'm participating with the person that the meme is about. So it's gonna be I'm really excited about that. And then I'm in the video for like
Hell
2 seconds. I'm like, yes, I'm part of this extremely niche piece of like country internet lore, which is my happy place.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
So that's fun. And then as the year goes on, man, it's funny, you were talking about like the producing stuff, and I'm so reticent to speak about it because not just like, oh, I don't feel like I'm good at it and want to brag, but just I don't want to center myself in someone else's story as much as like just kind of like step back and let it be like an open secret. And so that's why I was kind of like, I demurred earlier and I was like, I'm not gonna engage on this very far, but there's like a lot of, I'm trying to really learn the world of like helping someone develop. And so like I think that's like an ongoing project. And then, dude, I don't freaking know. Like I wish I had a bigger plan of what the rest of the year looks like, but I feel like the front half of this year was stacked and the second half is a big mystery to me in terms of...
It's exciting though.
Totally. I mean, I think I wish it's gonna be, my hope is that it's like pretty normal, is that I'm pretty like going about like being a little more consistent and routine.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've just been on like a chaos roller coaster for months. So
that's good, man.
Yeah.
That's good. That's fun, man. I think I speak for everybody in the community where I love that you're in Nashville, dude. Like I love that it's cool getting to be like our friendship and hanging out at the Nail, which by the way,
I was there last night.
Mark the calendar, August 24th. The Hermitage International Songwriters Festival at the Rusty Nail. It is a go. We're putting a stage on the beach, on the volleyball court, and we're going to have the Hermitage International Songwriters Festival at the Rusty Nail.
I've always thought that's where the stage should be.
Yes, and we're going to put McElwain on in the early part of the day. McElwain matinee, and he's going to kick it off inside.
When you say he's going to kick it off, do you mean as the MC or
as the MC?
Get some beautiful singing by him? Because I've seen it once.
Dude, the other night, bro, karaoke. And it's funny, like people come, he puts together solid lineups. And he had Brian Martin come. And Brian's doing great. And I love Brian Martin. Brian drove an hour and 30. He lives all the way south by the Alabama line. He drove all the way up to the Rusty Nail for McElwain Monday. And then McElwain gave him the honor of singing 90% of Cocaine Country Dancing as McElwain mumbles through his 10% and dances around. He also had Randall Fowler sing Hootie and the Blowfish, Only Want to Be With You, which was, Randall sounded great. McElwain hit the chorus. It was awesome. And then we did, what else? I think him, Clay Barker, Jerry Jacobs, and somebody, I think Sean Flannery, they sang Backstreet Boys.
Nice.
And then McElwain did one solo performance. He sang If I Could Only Imagine.
Wow, mercy me.
And I tweeted earlier in the night from the Raise Rowdy account, I feel God in the Rusty Nail. And sure enough, Matt McElwain is the vehicle, and he's up there. And that one, he sang every word. He nailed it because he grew up in a Pentecostal household, so he knew the words to that song.
Dude, a classic tune.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a pop hit, too.
Yeah, see, I hadn't really heard the song until I moved down here. I'll be honest. I didn't.
Interesting.
I didn't know it, yeah.
Dude, they even played it on, like, Q94, which was just, like, the pop station. It was a big crossover hit.
Yeah, I didn't know it.
Interesting.
I didn't know it until I moved down here. I learned it, like, a couple years ago. But yeah, the Rusty Nail, we've got the Hermitage International Songwriters Festival. So please come and join us. It's going to be an all day, and then at night, we're working on putting the lineup together. It'll be international, so we'll get, like, I think we're going to have, like, Jordan Dawsey. We're going to have, like, Chris Andrucci, like, some international folks to make it the International Songwriters Festival.
Sick.
Like Key West.
That's cool.
Key West at the Nail on a Saturday. And we're going to get somebody to sponsor the transportation. And we're going to get everybody Uber credits so they don't have to drive there, so they can just drink all day.
Dude. More ambitious than me. Let me
I was
going to
say, Raise Rowdy. This is what we do. The Hermitage International Songwriters Festival at the Rusty Nail. It's going to be sick. Well, dude, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. as fuck, or you have other things you could be doing, and I appreciate.
That's probably the
you
more
coming in.
accurate one.
You have other things you could be doing.
No, I don't give me the credit of being busy. I have other like random niche TikTok narratives I could be scrolling through and being like, would I make a video on this one day? But it's giving me too much credit to say I'm so busy.
I would say you are. You have a lot going on.
Sure.
You have a lot going on, but I appreciate you coming here and hanging
great to
out
be
and
here.
taking the trip up the street to get here. Which I love being in Hermit. I love being in this place because it's literally right around the corner.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's very luxurious. It's luxurious.
I think it looks awesome.
And the newest addition is that eagle knife. We bought that. We were driving through Monteagle, Tennessee, and we pulled off at this little pawn shop that also sold clothing, that also sold stickers, and was like kind of a pseudo brewery. And we saw that. Nick and I were like, "We need this," and we put it in the podcast.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And I love how it has a little thing. It's like bald eagle knife. It's like It's like
thank you.
No shit.
I couldn't have guessed.
Yeah, it's funny, but dude, appreciate you coming on, and thanks for doing round 2 with me here.
Oh, hell yeah, baby.
On OTR.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, brother. Of course.
Yeah.
Y'all be sure to check out our man, Grady Smith. And you've got a shit ton of subscribers on YouTube now. 219K. I got to learn how to do YouTube from you, bro. 'Cause I don't know how to do it. Like, that's our biggest thing. YouTube and TikTok are the things that I'm trying to figure out. But
here's the secret sauce to YouTube while we're leaving. Implied shadiness and ultimately a celebratory video. That's my
so make it look shady, but it's celebratory.
And you don't have to like be misleading, but like, you know, a video with a title like country artist that just sort of disappeared. You click on that because everyone's got a negativity bias because it feels like, oh, he's gonna like talk about people whose careers went wrong. But then the tone of it is much more like, yeah, they had like 7 big hits and then decided to go be a teacher. And that's actually like, I have found that the things that are on that line of like kind of like a little bit shady, but then ultimately you find the upside of it. To me, that's like YouTube gold.
Yeah, like where did Chris Cagle go? Like that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay, that kind of. Then be like, we need you, Chris. You know, that kind of thing. But y'all be sure to check out our man Grady Smith, and of course visit raiserowdy.com for more on us. Like, rate, subscribe, tell your mom and them. And thank you as always for watching and listening. For my man Grady, I'm Matt Burrill. This has been Outside the Round.